Back at it, gotta get this stuff all put back together. All of his fun parts. Here we go.
I start out this effort realizing I have a few more parts to clean, so I go ahead and get those into the carburetor dip as soon as possible. That way I can finish cleaning the upper part of the carburetor by spraying cleaner through all of the passageways for the vacuum lines and everything else to make sure there's no clogs in those areas. Now that I've cleaned the carburetor, it's time to start assembling it. To do this, we're going to start with the main body first. We'll install the air bleeds and then the air jet.
Got the parts out, got a few things put together on the carburetor. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of this back together, putting the sight glasses back on it. And then once I get that done, I'm going to put the rest of this back together with the throttle linkages put back on it. And then from there, got to put this all back together by putting all the float and the needle and seat. Some of that's going to be out of this carb kit set there. Get all of those together. And then should be able to get this thing back together. Get the rest of those accessories right over there, put on there. Once that's all together, we should have a nice running carburetor. So, here we go.
I realize as I'm about to assemble the accelerator pump, I'm missing a small push rod from inside the carburetor. Now I have to get it out of my spare. The assembly screw that keeps the internal parts of the pump in the carburetor is stuck, so I have to drill it out. I do this by drilling a hole in the head of the screw and hammer an Allen key in. I keep having to make it a little bit bigger for a bigger Allen key because the screw is not turning. After a few attempts, I have to do something else.
I just had to spend a few minutes drilling out this hole, which is the bottom of the carburetor underneath the accelerator pump, to get that little piece of shaft out, which is a weight for the ball bearing. Somehow it wasn't either in the carburetor or I misplaced it in the process of cleaning it. Thankfully I still had the spare. Now I can put all of this part right here back together. Unexpected but fun problem. Gaskets from the carburetor kit don't quite fit my kit. The gaskets from the kit don't quite fit the bowl sight covers. So now I guess I have to do a little bit of shaving to make them fit.
I spend about 30 minutes trimming the gaskets with a knife and get them to fit the cover for the sight glass. Then I continue to assemble the rest of the bowl plugs. Now it's time to start assembling the base of the carburetor. I'm going to start first by assembling the linkage. I decide to clean them with a wire wheel so I can make them all shiny and new. Then it's off to assembly. Now that I've assembled the linkage, it's time to put the butterflies back on the base of the carburetor. To do this, I have to line the valves up just right because they're in the shape of an oval compared to the circle of the base of the carburetor. To get it to fit correctly, I take 2 small Allen keys and use them as a guide. That way the valve will drop in the correct direction and have the right angle on it, so the mounting screws will line right up. The base is assembled, so it's time to put the main body of the carburetor back on. I make sure to select the right gasket out of the carburetor kit because some kits fit in multiple carburetors and I have to make sure I have the right one to line up correctly. Then I grab the 4 bolts and tighten them up. Now it's time to assemble the top plate called the air horn. This part houses the float, needle, and seat. These need to be set just right to get the carburetor to work correctly. To start, I install the seat in the air horn. I also have to install the screen that goes above the seat, otherwise the needle may plug. Then insert the needle.
Now it's time to install the floats. I first need to put the gasket on because to make sure the floats are in the correct position, this carburetor needs the gasket in place. To verify the floats are adjusted correctly, there are 2 spots that need to be measured. One with the air horn upside down to simulate the needle closed, and the other right side up to simulate the needle open. For measuring, the carburetor kit comes with a special L-shaped ruler to get close enough to the floats. To adjust the floats, there are little metal tabs that can be adjusted to make sure they're in the right spot. Now it's time to install the air horn. I need to make sure that when I install it, I don't knock the floats off. They're just held by a pin. There's nothing locking them in place. Once I have the horn in position, I grab all the screws and put it together. It's time to assemble the rest of the ancillary carburetor parts like the fuel inlet, choke assembly and brackets, secondary diaphragm assembly, and throttle return spring. Now that I've reassembled the carburetor, on the next episode I'll install it and we'll get the car running. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you'd like to see more of me trying to keep my fleet of Mazdas alive and well, please like and subscribe this video below. Otherwise, hope you had some fun.